Let's look at another indefinite integral substitution example real quick. We want to evaluate the integral of 5x cubed over the square root of x to the fourth plus 7 dx. Okay, so we look for a function inside another function, and we see that the x to the fourth plus 7 is inside a 1 over square root function. We ignore this for a second and hope that we'll be able to deal with it as we go. It's not the most complicated part, and it's not clearly a function inside of another function. So we start our sidebar calculation by saying u equals x to the fourth plus 7. Okay. Immediately, let me go ahead and display that though. Immediately, we take du, which is just the derivative expressed in differential notation, 4x cubed dx. Now we don't just solve for dx. We look and see if there's anything else that's smarter to match. X cubed dx, that's what we want to match. So that's just 1/4 du. And believe me, a lot of folks just have trouble moving that 4 over, and they put a 4 over here. We're just doing ordinary algebra here. We're just dividing both sides by 4. Not some new kind of algebra. Okay? So x cubed dx matches 1/4 du. Okay? And then this, the x to the fourth plus 7, is going to be u. Okay? So now we can go back and say our original integral, let's write it one more time to be clear what we're doing, can be expressed in a new language, which is 5, that's still there, and then the x cubed dx has turned into a 1/4 du, and then the bottom is just the square root of u. Okay, that has really reduced the complexity, especially since the constant just comes out, and then this is just u to the minus 1/2 du, and then so that's 5/4 times, you get, you add 1 to that minus 1/2, you get u to the 1/2 divided by 1/2, or in other words, times 2. Okay? Or in other words, let's just say 5/2, because it cancels. Okay? Plus c, because it's an indefinite integral. And then, also because it's an indefinite integral, this is supposed to be a function. And the u was my invention, my terminology, so I put it back into x language in this way, and if I wanted to, I could express that as a square root. It's not really essential, but some people might like it better to realize, okay, that's just the square root of x to the fourth plus 7. Okay. Here's one thing not to do. Do not ever write a mixed expression like, let's say, integral something with like x's, like maybe the 5 over, or if like this. Here's a very wrong thing to put. Very common thing is just to change the dx to the du and say, oh, I just changed it. You're not using the actual translation. Du and dx are totally not the same thing. That's why we write this down, because it changes when we do the substitution. Don't ever write like something like this. This is very incorrect. Okay, so let me just make sure that's down there. Incorrect. And more generally, don't ever write something down with x's and u's mixed. It's not useful. Make sure you've done enough in your sidebar calculation so that you can immediately switch everything involving an x to involving u. Don't half translate. Okay.